cool journey getting here, and you know, it's taken me a lifetime to be here with you. So thank you for being here. Again, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. I'll try to go through the presentation a little bit quickly. So if there are questions, then you know we can get to enough questions. If you're a professional artist or an aspiring artist or a student or a person who does it as a hobby, I have some homework for you, and I have some information that you might find useful. So again, my name is Jermaine Powell, but you can call me JP. So I am an artist in studio. I am a muralist, and I am a aspiring public artist. So I have many facets, and it's taken me probably about 20 to 30 years now since I sold my first painting to get to this point. I started off in Ohio. I was a t-shirt artist at a mall, and it gave me a education in the most, I would say the greatest resource, which is people. Now, people to artists sometimes are very scary. People don't, we do our work, so we won't have to talk to people, some artists, so we kind of show what we show our importance through our work. And but that job really helped me learn people, and it helped me to understand what people want from art and artists. So that's always the key. What do people who may not know about art, or people who like art or don't even like art, what do they want from the artist, and what can we give to them? So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna just go through this presentation because it'll just be better for you guys to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is a presentation about our history in the making. So for me, I've always had two passions, I guess: people and art. And for me, it's always been hard for artists, to find that kind of happy medium between making the work that you love, selling the work that you love, and also getting it to the people who appreciate it. So my first question will be, what if there were no galleries or retail opportunities with your art? What three things would you do to make money with your art? This is a question for everybody to think about, because these are the things that I think about every day. Because as we become better artists, the ways that we make art and distribute art are different. They become more advanced. They become, a little bit, I would say, less emotional. So you don't really get to see everybody who maybe appreciates your art. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, you just kind of post it and kind of wait for reactions. So how would you do that? So I want you guys to think about that as you do it. And as you listen to me, just think about that in your head. Okay. Now, this is the important thing that people, kind of stop at when they think about being an artist. Taking a leap. So taking a leap is, just deciding to be an artist. Now, the great thing about being an artist, and I've had many conversations about this, is you can be any kind of artist that you want to be. You can be a full-time artist, you can be a hobbyist, you can be a part-time artist, you can, paint, draw, sculpt, and teach. You can paint, draw, sculpt, and be a professional in another field. It doesn't matter. But what does matter is you deciding what you want to be. So in that, this is my tip. Organization is the key to success over talent. Now, as an aspiring artist, when I grew up in Ohio, I didn't know anything about being an artist. All I knew was I wanted to draw and I liked to paint. And, I also wanted to be an astronaut. So I studied very hard in school and, I got good grades and everything. But I did art as more of a hobby. But I think I had the ability to understand what people liked, and kind of marry that with what I like. So I started to charge, I think, $1 or $2 for my drawings, and it was on notebook paper, and it was in pen or pencil or something like that. And once I got my first dollar, I realized that I could possibly do this thing, and it was fun. So that goes to this theory of humble arrogance that I have. And I call it humble arrogance is because it's kind of a survival thing for me. Because when you're a professional artist, you have constant damage to your ego every day, especially if you work with clients or you work with the public, because you have to believe in yourself enough to even go out here to do art professionally. But you also have to be humble enough to take criticisms and also be flexible to change. So I want you to think about how confident are you in your work and how confident are you in your approaching people with your work, okay? So that humble arrogance is not like arrogance you might see like stereotypical artists in the sense of like, they kind of say I'm the best and they're divas or whatever you call it, but mostly it's just having enough confidence in your work to actually put it on display. So if you take being a cost of a artist, especially at a professional level, there is operational cost. Okay, so I want to talk about that a little bit. There's a cost as far as different insurances. Since I do public art, I have to have a certain liability insurance for the projects that I work on. I have a family, so my family has to kind of be on this journey with me as far as understanding schedules, because sometimes I can be on a project for 5 to 6 weeks. I just came off a project. I was in Chapel Hill, I think, for 8 weeks on and off. So it does take a kind of a toll on your personal life, in the sense of you have to really be scheduled and be very disciplined. Also, especially with your peers, sometimes, you have to kind of, hang out with your peers at different art gallery openings or different art events, just like this. But also you have to find time for yourself to actually do your work. I run into a lot of artists who, we always ask each other, what are we working on? And, we tell each other, what we're working on. And then sometimes, you won't hear from that person for another year. So you might be good friends with that person, or you might be great colleagues, and you won't see them. So sometimes, you have to deal with that emotional toil of, friendships and, knowing when a person is a friend versus a colleague, and kind of really just balancing those relationships. These are the things that people don't really talk about, but these are the things, especially when you're at a high level. Usually you're busy all the time. So you have to find time for your friends. You have to find time for your family. Okay, now this is important. How do I price my art? Now, personally, I
Hey,
hear this a
JP,
lot.
I'm sorry, I don't
Yes,
mean to
yeah.
interrupt you. Can I ask you
No,
a
go
question
ahead.
really quick?
Yeah.
So could you just go in really quickly to what you meant about liability insurance?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay,
Thanks. I
so
appreciate that.
yeah, no problem. No, liability insurance, it's one of those things to where even if I step outside and, I'm painting a mural and my ladder falls on somebody, or I fall off the ladder, or, you have to have these insurances because depending on who you're working with, they want to make sure that they're not liable for things that you do um, when you're working, because they're taking a risk by actually hiring you as an artist. And you need to start seeing yourself, if you're going to work at a higher level, as a business, as either a sole proprietor, LLC, or even a corporation. Um, I think that's kind of like the switch between, maybe a hobbyist and a professional. Now, it's a little daunting to think about, oh, I need all this insurance, but usually the people who you deal with, the insurance companies, they're very, nice, and they have policies that'll fit, the project. Now, the scary thing about it though, like for some insurances, you need like, $2 million liability. So, you're seeing those figures, you get a little bit, kind of like, whoa, it's crazy. But, it's just to cover you, it's to cover, the people that you're working with. And when you get like a higher price, say mural, like, if it's above like say $5,000 or $10,000 or something like that, you just want to make sure that those things are in place, because everybody, insurances is very important. It's just very important, to make sure everybody, sees this as a permanent, semi-permanent project. It's not just, you're doing it quote unquote for fun. All right. Okay. So, and as you gain more projects, it will make more sense to you. So you don't have to run out and get insurance. These are just things. If you get the call that you got a project, then people will know you have to. You'll be able to kind of go to an insurance company and tell them what you're working on, and they'll figure it out for you. And it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty not cheap, but it's affordable. I would say probably, I can't really quoting hard numbers, but I would probably say $500 to $1,000 a year. You know, yeah. So okay, so how do I price my art? And what are the benefits of making a profit? Now, when I was younger, of course, you price low because you're dealing with, a little bit of insecurity. You're dealing with being an amateur. Let me tell you this though, there's no point, I feel, in my career where I knew I was professional or amateur. You just decide to be an artist, and you're only, you the only thing that separates a professional and an amateur really is the project you're working on. So there are artists who have a lot of technical skills, and there are artists who don't. Some artists, they're great at, you know, drawing, but that doesn't mean that they're going to make a lot of profit. They might charge $10 for a drawing, or 20, 30, $40. Then there's somebody who kind of scribbles on a canvas and they have great conceptual work, and they might charge 10,000. So it's really up to you. But my whole goal, I needed to make a profit, because the better profit you have, the better art you make, for me. And I want to say this going into this presentation, that these are my experiences, so they might be different from yours. That's the great thing about being an artist, is that we all have different experiences. So just make sure that you're taking this information from me, but learn from your life, because you are you and I am me. So that makes the best artists are people who are themselves. So I price my art a little bit higher because of the materials that I use. As you can see in the photo, that's next to next to the text. This was a painting that I did, that was at Block Gallery in Raleigh a year ago, and the show was called Breathe: Life After Death. So it was kind of like a study of artists painting artists. So we all drew from a hat. We all kind of picked whoever, and we painted each other how we saw each other. So it was a very emotional show because it was during the beginning of the pandemic, but it was also kind of like this show where we kind of showcase what we've done. So this particular painting, you know, I priced it a little higher because of the materials. There's a lot of jewelry in there because I'm a mixed media artist. So jewelry, there's epoxy resin, which is kind of expensive, especially for that size. There's framing involved. You know, I work with the greatest, you know, framer ever, Kenny Batch, and you know, so there are costs. So you want to make a profit so you can make the next one. You don't want to skimp on materials if you make high if you make high quality work, you don't want to skip on materials because you're only as good as the last show you were in. So if somebody's seeing a great piece in your show and then you go to another show and it doesn't look as quality as the next, you know, as before, then you know you lose your appeal and you lose your reputation as being a high quality artist. So keep that in mind. And then you get to do stuff cool with the profit. Like, you know, I travel a lot. So I add that cost into my work because me traveling makes my work a little bit more unique than somebody's, you know, that maybe that's in the studio all the time, you know, but everybody has their uniqueness. We're going to talk about that a little later. So what is the difference between sales and marketing as an artist? Sales is, you know, when you receive actual payment or you receive, you know, something from the, you know, artwork. Marketing is all the pretty stuff that you see when people say, you know, this is how I make this, or, you know, this is what I've done. This photo actually is marketing because I still have this painting, but it's actually in another show and at Pullen Park, actually, that's coming up. Okay, so this is a case study. And this was a show that I want to talk about. It was called the Triangle Community Foundation exhibition, and it was called Pure Luxury, the Quarantine Edition. So this was a really cool show because it was the first show that I made on the beach. So it was a mobile show. I got the call that I got the show, but we couldn't show work. So, you know, I had to virtually come up with the show. And so it's very important that you have the tools mobilely if you want to be an artist in 2021. So I have, you know, I have my iPad with me all times. I have my Apple Pencil all times. I have the smaller iPad and I have a bigger iPad. I kind of prefer the smaller one because I can fit it in my bag. It has a keyboard on there so I can type too. And I've been all over the world with this iPad. And it allows me to do work mobily. I did this show. Pretty much everything is either done digitally or I mixed digital and kind of analog, I call it, but digital and like, you know, pencils, watercolors, those type of things. And for me, it was a successful show because as you can see, it looked like it could hang on the wall, but I made most of the stuff virtually. So, you know, I was able to make this at the beach. You know, I was on the beach sketching and you know, kind of putting layers together, drawing. And then, you know, I would send it for approval because this one was with, I think, the Durham Art Guild and the Triangle Community Foundation. And I got feedback in real time. And I can make changes, you know, as, you know, you get feedback because I think I presented maybe 16 or 17 works of art. And then I think we ended up with maybe 12 to 14. So artists need to think about that, you know, because you want to have a life and do your art too. So if you could travel and do your art at the same time, you need to, you know, have those things ready. This phone is my home office. You know, I'm all over the place all week, but I can do pretty much 90% of the things I could do at home and, you know, on my phone or with my iPad. So artists, you need to, you know, invest in these things. You know, I was a little scared to press the Amazon button, to buy it, because this stuff is very expensive. But if you get a project, it'll pay for itself, So just think about investing in yourself, because you can reach more people, and you can, and if you get your critiques faster, you won't be on this kind of, rabbit hole of if they like it or, yeah. So I want to talk about this,
Hey,
this
JP,
important. Yeah, go
can I
ahead.
ask you a few questions from the chat real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So first off is, how do you find out about shows? And also, if you post virtually, how do you keep people from stealing the image and just not buying it?
Okay. So first question was, how do
Find out about shows.
I find about shows? Okay, so I found out two or three ways. Number one, you find out from other artists. Because usually if you find out from other artists, you're better equipped with, what the show is actually about. Is it worth your time? And then you have a better chance of going in, because, getting in to the show, because you'll have sort of like a cosign. You'll have people who, support your work. If they know the artist, that artist usually vouch for you. I just had a show in Wilmington, which was called Continuum of Change. And it was with 4 or 5 really, really talented artists. And we kind of painted these portraits of kind of like historical figures, unsung heroes in Wilmington. And it was kind of like this thing of where we knew of each other's work enough to know that we could work together. So it was kind of a beautiful show in that sense of like, we could feel kind of each other's like pulse, of how we work together. So it made a greater show than just putting some random people in there. The other ways, you find out from social media. There's everybody's, talking about, this show, or, a lot of the or that show. And then a lot of the organizations are really stepping up their social media presence. So it makes it a lot easier for like, the word of mouth, and that, it's really cool, just to see how far we've come. And so always have your resumes ready, or CVs as they call it now. Always have images together, and then always have like your statements and, what you say about the work, because that stuff will bog you down if you don't have it ready. Like last night, I had a mural presentation that I had to have. And then before that, I had art that I had to photograph. So I only had like maybe 2 hours for this mural presentation. And, normally it would take about 6 to 7 hours, because you have to design the mural that the presentation you have to, and they wanted a budget, and they wanted, a statement about the work, and they wanted, so if you just did the image and you just handed that in, you might have half a chance. But if you don't have, the statements, you don't have the organization, you probably won't get it, because they'll take somebody that doesn't maybe have the talent that you might have, but they were prepared, So always be prepared. So usually I get the boring stuff out of the way first, so then I'll have time to actually, paint or draw. And then when they receive everything, they can judge it, in a fair way, with saying, wow, he's a great artist, but he also had, his paperwork together. So those are the kind of the 3 ways. And then what was the second question, Ali?
It was how do you, when you post on
Oh,
Instagram and
yeah.
such, how do you keep people from stealing the image as opposed to buying it?
You can't. But see, the thing is, you have to make yourself unique. So a lot of times I've seen people steal my images or things like that. And you always have to be unique in the way you print it or the way you present it. So you might have, say, a poster or something like that, where they can, they can steal it. So, but I always kind of frame it. So these are virtual frames, or I have it presented in a way where it's not just a flat image. So they can just kind of take it off the screen, You know, there are hard copies. Like even with this painting that you see in the background, it's here, but it's here virtually because I added the rich statement and I framed it. But I have an original here. So if people wanted the original, if they wanted a print, they can get both. So always make the hard copy unique. Maybe you print it on metal or a glass or something, or maybe you print it on a shirt. Also, I want to point out too, let me see, like the things that make my painting so unique and I get some flack from is that you'll see that JP in the corner. And when it's on my real paintings, on my, actually hard copy paintings or whatever you want to call it, it's encased in a glass square. So when people see that, they don't have to even see my image. They just know it's a JP. That's kind of like my moniker. And, I use that to kind of, that is the thing that people kind of, in a sense, covet. That's the thing they want because they know it's an authentic JP if it has that glass kind of signage. I don't necessarily sign my paintings like an artist would, but I have that glass, kind of like, I guess that people would call it like like it's a monument or something, like it's the, logo or whatever. So second question for you to think about. Let me see, go through here. So in what ways, unique ways, does your art connect with people? Why should people buy your art versus just looking at it? So it kind of goes to what the question was. And that's something for you to think about because I see a lot of people get excited about having an art show and then they're very disappointed when nothing sells. So you have to really think about the psychology of the people that you're showing work. Early in my career, I did a lot of outdoor events and I used to come back very sad because, I would have great conversations with people when, you're kind of sitting there and it's a hot day and you're under the tent and you're talking about your work and, you feel like you're doing something, which you are, but then you kind of come back with no sales, either because you priced it too high or, you get a lot of people who are very just interested in your work, but not necessarily want to buy it. So you have to think about how either you connecting with people, is that working? Or are you connecting with people and they're actually buying it, which is a great thing? Or you're connecting with people and they're not buying it and why? So these are the things that you have to think about. And you can come up with your own answer. See, that's the thing, because your art is unique. So if you really just, stand still and think about it, look at your work, the reason why people, I think, buy my work a lot of times is not so much the subject matter. I think the subject matter is beautiful, but it has that epoxy resin on it. And I think that people like shiny things because I used to be a teacher and I used to make art that I think kids would like. So a lot of times my work looks like it's a piece of candy, like like some taffy or something, like you can actually eat it. And I catch people all the time, like, just wanting to touch it, and so that's how I know that, even if people could steal my images, they don't have the original, so they're missing that experience of that actual touch, and your art might have something that's very unique. So if it does, play that up, yeah. So okay, so this is important too. Lessons learned running an art business during the pandemic. So I think I was prepared for this a little bit more than I thought. And I'll be interested in, maybe in the chat people, kind of talk about their experiences. But this is my tip, uh, providing creative solutions for others has led to my success as a working artist. So that just means that art is very personal, but I think when you start solving other people's problems, then you start making a profit. So think about the people that you work with or you're working with, and think about the people that you want to work with. What problems do they need solving with your art? My work is very, kind of elegant and things like that. It's very lush and very, kind of I think opulent, I guess is the word. My whole goal for making my work is to make people feel valuable. That is the whole goal, to make people and things feel valuable, make nature valuable, make people feel great about themselves. That's a thing. That's my thing. So think about that, you know. And even if you're not a great like draftsman, or you're not a great, you know, colorist, or you know, you will have a career if you can solve somebody's problems. Okay, so when do you need to invent or reinvent yourself as an artist? Now, during the pandemic, I think we all, you know, had to ask that question. Now, I would say this is probably my third or fourth lifetime, you know, as an artist. I had to reinvent myself. I had to invent myself, you know, many a times, and that's okay. I'm gonna stop right there because I want that to sink in. It is okay to either invent yourself, meaning that be the person that you want to be or the character that you want to be, or if it's not working, reinvent what is not working to something greater, and that is okay. I hope everybody, if anything resonates with you throughout this presentation, let that be the thing. It is okay to reinvent yourself if it's not working. If you paint sailboats and you hate painting sailboats, you don't have to paint sailboats anymore. You don't have to paint dog portraits for $5 anymore. You get it? So you can do pretty much anything you want to do. There are consequences to that. You might have to throw a whole bunch of portraits away, but you have to look to what you want to be. It can be something greater. Why should people be your most valuable resource? Now, I wouldn't be anywhere without you. I wouldn't be anything without you, you know, you guys attending. I wouldn't be anywhere about, you know, anywhere without people investing time and energy into my work. I wouldn't be anywhere without the institutions that support my work. So when you think about if you're in a slump, or your work's not selling, or you just feel like you're in a creative hole, or you're trying to take the leap and you don't know where to go, people are your greatest resource. Um, and people not necessarily even talking to people all the time. Sometimes it's just watching people, watching them, watching them as far as how they conduct business, how they can, how gracious are they, how mean they are. Some people are very mean and they get the things that they want. So watch people and see if anything matches up, you know, because I think I was in a slump for about 2 years where I was working on my house and I bought an older home. And so I couldn't do the work that I wanted to do because I like big work. So I had to do small work. So um, I felt like I wasn't me, you know, but at the end of the day, I end up making, you know, these series of plates here, and they were small and they were affordable for people. So they started to sell. It was still me, but it was me in a different way. And I think this work, it allowed me to do way more work, and it allowed me to reach way more people because it was something digestible and it still celebrated people. Okay. So, so think about that. People are always going to be your greatest resource. If you know, contact somebody, talk to people, even if you're not in artist mode and you're just in regular people mode, talk to people. Because just because you're an artist doesn't mean that you have to just learn from art people. You know, I learned a lot from engineers, and learning a lot from engineers helps me talk to my fabricators when they build my work, you know, sculptures and stuff. I know how to speak that talk because I have engineer friends. Okay, this is very important too during the pandemic. Health and exercise. Why is it important as an artist? Okay, mentally, of course, it's very important to have a health regimen to keep yourself healthy, to keep your work healthy. If you're sick, you can't really produce the work that you would like to. I took this very serious during the pandemic, and I started to work out and exercise, and it improved my work. I was faster at doing my work. I got a lot of mural work because of the pandemic, because I couldn't do things inside. So if you want to do mural work, you have to be healthy. You have to eat healthy. There's a kind of like this temptation, when you do murals, when you're doing outdoor, to eat fast food, to, just kind of eat, quickly. But I had to learn how to prepare food before I went to, work, salads and, health, like salmon and stuff like that. Because if you're cramped up, or you have an injury, you can't work anymore, or it's very painful. I did my mural while it was snowing, in the middle of a snowstorm, and I was 15 feet up, kind of painting. And then the next couple of days, it was super hot, so, you have to stay healthy. Okay. Okay, so this is a case study on pandemic. So a lot of artists don't think about retail as far as products. So we always some artists are rebels in the sense of, my art is not a product and this and that. But, I needed money, during the pandemic, and I needed a way to create things that people could actually afford. So if you have $1,000 paintings, people, we didn't have money. It's like we had, because we didn't know where we were gonna be in the next week or two. So I had to come up with a older idea that I've always had, but I had to kind of step it up. And these are my JP handbag collection. So part of my brand is to try to be authentic to myself, and do things that I think will benefit my customers, but also benefit me in the sense of, I don't feel like I'm doing something that I hate, because I wouldn't be an artist if I did. So I came up with this thing about painting on handbags, and high quality handbags, new handbags, but also I wanted to paint real art on my handbags. So it's not like I feel like I'm cheapening, or it feels like I'm kind of shortcutting my work. So I wanted to put my work on something that people actually use. So you can see that, the work that I do, even on a handbag, is still crafted in the JP, quality style. And it's very unique for me to be able to do it. I had to use leather paints. So they do sell leather paints and things like that, high quality stuff. And then I kind of attach, flowers and different things on there. So the benefit for me is I created a product that is still kind of museum quality. You can put this in a museum, you can put it in a gallery, but it's also for the person who is in the handbags. They get digestible art in the sense they have stuff that they can use. It's very unique, so it makes them look great, because they're the only person pretty much in the world who has this. And that's what I want people to experience from me. I want people to be able to say, an artist that I know, an artist that I like, made this for me, and I am the only one in the world who has this. And in the pandemic, I think it was very important for that to be stated, because a lot of people felt lost. They didn't feel their usual high self-esteem, because they were in the house. They couldn't dress. They couldn't, dress going for work or going out. So you have to think about, how can you make people feel special in their own homes? How can you make people feel special through the work that you do? Because sometimes words don't capture what a gift or an image can capture. So, I have all sorts of handbags I've painted. Some I painted for myself, some are custom. But, bottom line, if you want to have an income with your art, you create some kind of product that you're happy with and that can benefit somebody else, you know. Yeah. I also do furniture, which, is very interesting in the sense of like it's it came at a point where I had slow sales and artwork. So, galleries, I think I got kind of rejected from some galleries. And I felt a little bit like, okay, so I can't show my work in a gallery. What can I do? So, usually, as a muralist, I'm in beautiful homes. And these beautiful homes are usually empty, they might have maybe one or two tables in them. But usually, like, you know, you go to whatever furniture store, you buy, whatever is in style. But how many people have unique pieces that are custom made for them, or they saw something that was very affordable, but was still a unique? So I wanted to make furniture that still, like, again, I still have my JP signature, high quality, pure luxury look, but I wanted something that will stay in people's homes and they can pass on to other generations. Because I've had people, gift these to their family members who moved into a new house or moved into their first apartment, a daughter or a son. So these things are very important to me because they keep my work alive, throughout generations. And it's a way to where the art is just not on the wall. It's actually a functional thing. And it still has my hands in it because I made it, and I enjoy making the thing. I enjoy that. So you might want to think about that. And it's not really hard to do. Usually it's just how you seal things, so if you get, a polyacrylic sealer or, some kind of, spray or something that seals it, you're pretty good.
Hey, JP, I got a question from the chat for you.
Yeah.
So where do you sell these?
Okay. So you can sell them anywhere, but usually, it's one of those things where you have to try and fail. Selling furniture online is super hard, so you have to maybe go to a flea market, or I think the best thing is to host an event yourself, which, is daunting at first because you have to do, kind of the details, and you have to pick the spots and things. But if you can isolate your work where people just view your work and your work only, you'll have high sales. It's very hard to have high sales where you're like in a market environment where everybody's like there and they can choose, like, if they want, a sweater, or they want your work, or, they want a mug, or they want a piece of art. So if you isolate your thing, and this is what I do, and I'm inviting you to my thing, and then you can talk about what you do, you have a higher chance of sales. So usually I sell these in person. If I post them online, people can kind of like, have a conversation too, because having a conversation about the piece helps the sales too. So some people might DM me on Instagram, or they might message me on Facebook, or they might reach me through email and talk about the piece, or FaceTime me so they can actually see, they can see the piece, they can see that it's actually real. It's not like photoshopped or anything. So you really have to, like I said, either to learn how to talk to people, or what we all would wish. We wish we had some kind of manager or some kind of salesperson to kind of tell them about the work. But I think doing it this long, I think you just have to learn how to talk to people. But I think you have to learn how to be a great listener too, because I was telling Ali in the before the meeting, I said I over talk, so I'm learning to say less and let people talk, because they're the ones who will put their emotions on your work. So if they like it, they will tell you why they like it. You're just helping them understand why you made it, and that helps sells the work too, because you know, like a lot of, I travel a lot. So a lot of the work that I do is based on where I've been and the people I've met. So if you can tell the story of why the work was made and how it was made, uh, the person might fall in love with it. You know, they might see something similar in their lives, you know, and then they might attach themselves, you know. Yeah. So this is what I want to get into. I know we're running out of time, but this is a very important thing that I had to learn. Um, because you, as an artist, you meet so many different people, you do so many different projects, you work with so many different businesses, so many different institutions. But I want you all to think about this. And you might not have thought about it, maybe you're already doing it. But think about this. What are your top 3 rules for your personal code of conduct as an artist? Okay, so when I mean code of conduct, this kind of goes to the point of who do you like working with? Who would you not work with? What won't you paint or draw or sculpt? You know, how how do you present yourself? What do you wear? You know, like I had a professor. I went to Pratt Institute in New York, and I had a sculpture teacher and industrial design, and he would always teach us how to sculpt and thing. We would do this like really messy plaster. So he would, you know, teach us how to do plaster, and he would always wear a tie in a suit coat. And I thought that was very like unique. But he said he did that. He wears that to keep himself um, precise because he knows he doesn't want to walk with plaster on him. So he knows when he taught himself how to keep everything clean and keep everything organized by wearing, you know, that. So that was his code of conduct. You know, think about how you dress. You can dress any way you want, but do you like it? You know, I remember early in my career, I used to wear these suits and they were oversized, and I was about probably 110 pounds. And I just looked so silly trying to be this like professional quote unquote artist. And it wasn't me, you know? And so I thought that at the time that was what I was supposed to be. But as I gained confidence, you know, I paint in a tie as a remembrance to my industrial design teacher, but I also, you know, I wear like usually a either a hood or some kind of like you know, some kind of comfortable shirt or sweater or something like that, you know, just to keep myself grounded. Um, so think about, you know, who you are, you know, as an artist. So using your own life experiences in the business of art. Now, there's a difference between being an artist and the business of art. Okay. And sometimes organization, again, I'm gonna say that again. Sometimes organization is the key to success over talent. It keeps coming up in my life, you know, as my career. If you have everything ready, you have all your documents, you have, even when you go out and do a mural, if you have everything packed up and you're not scrambling for brushes and things like that, you will have a better career and a better peace of mind if you are organized. So you won't be so stressed out, because the only thing we have, and whoever's an artist in this panel, think about this. If you're a great artist, or if you're, you know, I call it peaking, meaning like, you know, there's a point in an artist's life where, you know, people know you, and then you just get so much business that you kind of like are overwhelmed. You know, you get, like for me, since I'm in different facets of art making, you know, I might have a studio show, I might have a little museum show or something, then I might have a couple of public art projects, I might have 2 3 murals. So if I get all that at one time, it's very important that I organize my life, like, so I can say yes. Because a lot of people say no because they're not organized. They can't, you know, off the cuff, they can't make drafts of sketches. They can't send this, a bio photo today, so they might miss the opportunity, So stay organized, the things that you need, not what JP needs, what you need, so you can be the best artist. Like I have to have great shoes. Like that's for me, I have to have a certain cologne on when I work so I can feel good about myself. Um I have to have my ear pods, you know. This is the JP kit. You have your own art kit for yourself, you know. Um so the thing that's changed my career, like I said before, is traveling. So I've traveled um around the world, and it's really changed the way I see my work. It changed the way I see your work. If I've ever seen your work before, it's changing how I speak to people, and it's changing my perspective on taking on bigger projects, because I think when you travel, you see how far your work can travel. Um, so think about that, or not think about it. Maybe you want to stay local. I have a local presence here. I'm in Fuquay Varina, and I love being in a small town, which is growing every day. And I compete in this plein air painting paint off every year, and each year I get better and better. And I think a year ago I kind of got first place, and it felt great for me. Not to say I had first place and I'm the winner, but I could just see myself get better, and I feel great to be an artist in a small town. But I've also traveled to, Africa and Europe and things like that. And it's also changed my work there, because everywhere I go, I make work there. And then I share it with people, and I share it online sometimes. And, I tell people what I'm doing. And really, people are start to get interested in the work, and they start to get interested in, you know, um, not just being an artist, but just being a human being in the world, doing things. And sometimes I think you become an avatar for other people, because some people are wheelchair bound, or some people are, um, they're working all the time. So a lot of times you never know how your life will affect somebody else's life. So that's why I encourage you all to live your life, live the life that inside you feel like you should be leading, because it'll make your art better, and people can tell. This piece right here, it kind of weaves a lot of the places, that I love. There's some Japanese patterns, there's some Turkish patterns. Um, there's kind of this tapestry of like life, and people who look at it, they might see themselves in it. And again, that goes back to what we were saying. Try to find some connection with the people who you want to connect to. Not all rich people are mean. The people that I guess we want to buy our work. Not all people that are on the street. Not all of them know about the work that you produce. A lot of people want to be educated about different things, and then in turn they educate themselves. I mean, they educate you about what they do, so think about that. How can you use what you already have to craft your story as an artist? Again, that's your greatest resource is people. And again, the greatest resource is other people and yourself. You don't have to be in the artsy life to be an artist. A lot of people use their experience, like a lot of times I use money in my work, like currencies. And I learn a lot from bankers, and I learn a lot from financial people. They're very interesting to me because we think sometimes on different sides of the brain. I talk to a lot of scientists and a lot of healthcare professionals, and they tell me about their lives. For me, uh, I think my curiosity of life helps me be a better artist. When I went to art school in New York, I didn't necessarily go to be a better artist, I guess, technically. A lot of people go to art school to be technical, great artists, learn how to paint this and that. But I think for me, it was more so I knew I was pretty okay technically, but I knew I needed to live life to have something to say. And I had to use the life that I had. If I wasn't doing all this awesome stuff, if I wasn't traveling, if I wasn't, meeting all these important people, who am I? I'm just a boy from Ohio. But in that experience, I have a wealth of something to say, with my work. So use where you are, because usually when your life starts to get, when you start to get famous as an artist, you have less time with yourself, and you crave the moments when you weren't as popular or you weren't as busy. So use the time that you have, you know, as an quote unquote amateur artist, use that life experience, and also use the life experience as you grow as an artist, and kind of mishmash them together. And then you start to see that your work has character and it starts to have a perspective. And I think that's when you start to really do some amazing work, because it might just be a landscape, but you might put something that's uniquely you in that landscape that people identify as you. And that adds to, the appeal of your work, but it also adds to sales, because they're wanting to buy something that is uniquely made from that one person, or a team. So just think about those things. Okay, so I think we're kind of getting to the time where, but I'll if we can go over about 10 minutes, I'll just finish this out. Is that okay, Ollie? Well, I'll just
Yeah.
keep talking.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yeah.
No, no, you're
Take all the
fine.
time you need.
Okay, yeah, I think this is the last section. And then we'll just, if anybody has any questions. So creating art for yourself versus creating art for the public. Okay, so again, this is a path that kind of happened for me. I didn't actually kind of go after it. It just started to happen. So public art is for the public. At the end of the day. Okay, so public art is the stuff that you see, as you're walking. But the process is very personal at first. And then, because people come to you because of your personal art, in a sense, or because of your uniqueness. Okay, then it goes through a process of people who can make that thing happen. So usually I used to think that, okay, public artists, when you see a big sculpture, that person made the thing is himself or herself. But it doesn't work like that all the time. Usually you have an idea, or you and your team have an idea, and then you go to a fabricator and they make the stuff for you. But you get a budget, and then out of the budget, you pay yourself, you pay everybody that's involved, and you pay the person who makes the stuff for you, or the business that makes the stuff for you. So it's a very, it was a shift in my whole career, because, I was doing so many big things that were, if you do murals, if anybody in this panel does murals, they know that after the mirror, you're super tired, and you kind of need a break. But with public art, you kind of telling people what to do, kind of, and then you're getting feedback from the community, because most of your art is in the community. It's not just kind of standing away from everybody. So you have to integrate it with the community. So you have to do a lot of listening, and you have to do a lot of, like I said, people watching, because in meetings, my first Zoom meeting I ever had, I super bombed it because I didn't know who to look at. I didn't know who, I didn't know what to talk about. I kept blabbing. So I had to learn how to speak slowly. And I had to learn how to talk about the different points in my work that connect to the goal. So that goes back to my tip here. Art is personal, but don't take it personal because, again, solution based creative thinking is going to make your art very valuable because you're looking for a connection with your art to the people that your art will affect. Either it's going to affect an individual, or it's going to affect the community, or it's going to affect a business, or it's going to affect, a school. You have to think about that when you're thinking about public art. So, how do you please the public while keeping your personal integrity as an artist? Now, as a personal code of conduct for me, the first 20, 30 minutes of any artwork that I ever will ever do is just for me. So when I create an artwork, even if I'm sketching, designs for a project, the first 30 minutes is for me. It is where I'm a kid again, where I enjoy everything. It's where I'm in that sense of, enjoyment and awe. It's where I have fun, where I smile, where I let myself be an artist, be the artist that I always wanted to be. Because eventually, the pressures of deadlines, the pressures of, getting drafts to people and, looking at budgets, those things are going to come. But for the first 30 minutes, I'm just a kid again. So that's my personal code of conduct. If you don't have that, you don't have to necessarily have that. But for me, it helps me do a lot of work because I do a lot of work throughout the week. Probably 4 or 5 design drafts a week, probably, about 20 calls a week, meetings and stuff. So the first 30 minutes, I just try to be happy. Then, along the way, when you're working on projects, especially with clients, if you're doing portraits and stuff for people or projects, ask questions along the way. A lot of times we're afraid to ask questions, but no question is stupid. No question is not valid, is invalid because you're trying to connect with that person and you're trying to give them what they want and still keep your integrity. So ask a lot of questions, have a conversation because it's better than, kind of dropping off an artwork that somebody hates or doing a project and you didn't think about this issue until it's being installed or whatever. It's like the worst feeling in the world. Okay, so what is solution-based art making? Do you see art opportunities around you? So solution-based art making is, like I keep saying, solving some type of problem. So this artwork that you see was during the pandemic, in the middle of pandemic. So they had, I think Raleigh Art, they had a call for sidewalk murals. And I never did it. I think I did a sidewalk chalk mural before, but never in paint. And it was kind of like, during, a lot of the social justice protests and, the start of the pandemic. So it was a really kind of like crazy time for the city of Raleigh. It was weird seeing kind of like downtown kind of vacant. And so I wanted to make something that will inspire people with what I feel is the thing that people, that kind of drives us to be together, which is love and pure love. That's kind of at the top of this. It says pure, very small, and then love. And so, that was a solution, to the problem because, I could have made some cool, car or something or cool, something cool, but I wanted to make something that meant something to the people that I know would walk the streets. And what I found were there were a lot of homeless people and people who are out of a job, who just lost their jobs, There were people who have lost their loved ones at the time, just lost their loved ones from COVID-19. So there was a lot of sorrow and a lot of, just questioning in that time. So I wanted to kind of make something that, will be inspiring, not too heavy, but something that would have like a wow factor. So, do you see those opportunities around you? Because, money is not always the end all be all of a project. This project actually led to so many other projects because when people saw this project, yeah, it's technically nice, but I think the message is a little bit more powerful than the execution in this one. So it led to bigger projects. And so think about your work, could you do something that is very strategic in the sense of it's in a place where people come together, or is it in a place where in an area that you always wanted to do work in, but you're trying to find a way of how can I make my work integrate in these spaces? Can I do a temporary work that, I just put up? Or could I, stream myself making this work in this area to get some kind of buzz around my work? You have to think about those things. And if you think long enough, you'll see the opportunities around you. And then too, like I said, people are your greatest resource. So you just call somebody and just ask them, you know, I'm an artist, this is the type of work that I do. Could I do this? Or could I do that? And then they might say no, but they might lead you to another person or another institution. So think about, what opportunities are around. Okay, so why do I create avatars for my friends, customers, collectors? Okay, this is kind of a marketing thing, but it actually is a life thing too, because I create like avatars of people that I met throughout life just to see like, is what I'm doing working? So the work that I do, this is what I want to do, but is it translating to people who are my friends? Do they like it? Do my customers like it? How can I make it better? A lot of times, like my work was at the beginning, it was very heavy. So people would love my work, but it was too heavy or it was too big to fit in, an apartment. So I had to kind of make it a little smaller. So I make these avatars because I think about people who would actually buy my work and what are their circumstances, like I like working with youth, and I like talking to people who maybe out of college who got their first job, or they're getting their master's degree. What kind of work would they want? How can I make it affordable for them? These are things that are so important, that you need to think about, because you can just tweak your work. You might be one thing off from your work, one kind of option, that people are just like, if you had it in blue, or maybe if it was a little bit smaller so I can hang it, over my mantle. So think about those things. This is the last case study, and this is a very important one because this is kind of like my biggest mural. So you see, this is all the special people that I meet, along the way, and it's so many different conversations, so many great moments, in my life, just based on just working on murals. You meet so many cool people. So this is Rachel in the back. So we met during the mural. So this is the We Are community mural. This is in Carborough. I think I completed it, about 5 months ago, I think, or 4 months ago. Now, this was an effort, I think, of the whole community. So I had a photo shoot because I was in charge of what they call community engagement. And community engagement is when you meet with people of the community, but you have to set up different events, or you have to set up, different ways of which you can get input from the community. So during the pandemic, it was a little difficult because we had to have an online poll to see what people actually wanted, what they thought of the designs. and they critiqued the designs. Actually, they tore up the designs. Like people really didn't, like the first designs, because Carborough is a very unique community, and Chapel Hill is very unique in the sense of it's very diverse and it's very lively, and it has a very vibrant arts community that is highly respected. So me coming into that scene, it's kind of like I have to really be able to listen to the residents. So what I came up with is a photo shoot, because I wanted the mural to be authentic. And at first it started off, I think, with 6 people, but then we ended up with 22 people. So it was a great process. The mural actually, at the end of it, it was going to be 15 feet. I think it ended up being 30 feet, because like I said, it's such a diverse community. It has such a range of different neighborhoods and people from all walks of life. And the people who ended up on the wall, I think, were people with, very unique stories to tell. You have couples who have been in Carborough for 40 years. You have people just moving to the area from all over the world. You have people who, are just here for college and university. So you want to kind of do all that, and with one kind of like statement. And so when you think about, creating art for yourself versus for the public, you really, at the end of the day, when you leave it, you want something that the public is proud of too, because they see themselves in the work. So every time somebody walks, by, they can say, I know that person, or I am that person. So you want people to see themselves through your work. If you want to be this type of artist. Now, if you want to be a different type of artist, there are also rules for that too. But I think that being a successful public artist is where people sometimes can see themselves a little bit more, or it maybe changes their perspective, because a lot of these people probably don't even know each other, and they don't know that they actually exist in the same community. So that's why I think this is a very powerful statement, as far as this mural is concerned. Yeah, and it also had sponsors too. So there are also different expectations from sponsors, the people who are actually paying for the mural, who they want to acknowledge that they're a part of it too. So you might have to think about that when you do your murals or your work. So this is just a detail, and as you can see, as I learned from this mural, it was a challenge really to kind of get the relationships together, because a lot of the people, they wanted to be painted with the person that they were with. Usually portrait artists, they just paint one portrait, at a time. But this one, I had to kind of combine people and kind of make that relationship happen with paint. And this was a little difficult because it was an older wall. So I had to kind of paint in between the bricks. So some of the eyes were in the bricks and things like that. So a lot of the technical skills came in handy, and just kind of just learning how perspective and, all that art stuff, Yeah. So like I said, any questions, you can, in the chat, and even on offline, if you want to go through my Instagram or JermainePowell.com, you can visit that, and hit me through email or my Facebook page. Yeah, I'm here. That's the thing too. I and other artists are great resources for artists, for you all, because we all have a varying degree of experience with different things, and you might get one answer from one artist, another answer from another artist. But remember, this is your career, so you take the advice that makes the most sense to you. You see what I'm saying? Because there's no super direct path to this stuff. I was I think a 13 or 14-year-old child who wanted to be an artist. Now, when I was 13 or 14, I just thought that was being in a, gallery. But I think when you think about being an artist in today's times, it can mean a multitude of things. And that's the great thing about it. Don't feel trapped, being an artist, because you can invent the career that you want to make. So I'll end with that. If there's any questions, I'll take some time to answer those. But I really want to thank you all for attending. I want to thank you all for being artists and continuing to do the work, because it's easy to give up. And you don't get a lot of support sometimes, from family and friends. But there are people and there are family and friends who do support artists. So if you are a supporter of the arts and of artists, I thank you all too. So if you have any questions, Ali, from the chat, I can answer those.
I actually think we got all the questions.
Cool. All right. That's even better. So I don't feel too bad about going over. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
We good?
Yep.
All right.